Hi, today I'm going to tell you a quick story in regards to a property that we just closed on recently. We were representing the buyer, and the property was in foreclosure. The seller had run into some life events that had caused them to get behind in their payments, and foreclosure was fast approaching. So my buyer was a perfect buyer for that seller because we were cash and we had the ability to close fairly quickly. So anyhow, we got under contract, did our normal due diligence, and the thing that most people aren't aware of necessarily is the fact that these properties, when they're foreclosed on, they're auctioned off at the county courthouse steps of whatever county they're located. So in this particular case, the property is in King County, and so every Friday there's for a foreclosure auction. And if you are a cash buyer, you can go down to the foreclosure auction and you can bid on these properties. And they're 100% as is, and you have to be responsible for all the title searches and all that. So there's a lot to it, but that's for another video. But the story on this one was that even after everybody's hustle, we were still and ended up closing the transaction on the week of the foreclosure date. And that makes the escrow and title companies really nervous because they've got basically two events that are going to collide, so to speak. And they will definitely want to make sure that the purchase happens and is done in enough time that they can record and they can get the foreclosure essentially stopped so that it doesn't go to auction on that Friday. So anyhow, we were successful in the closing of the transaction. We were successful in doing it enough time that the title company had enough time to be able to notify the foreclosure folks and make sure that the auction of the property did not happen on Friday like it was scheduled. So, but the moral of the story is that even though you have a foreclosure date that's coming, that it is important to not push your time limits all the way up to the foreclosure date, because that Friday, of course, it's too late. It's already going to auction, and no title companies can insure the transaction if there's a risk of that happening. And they even don't like it to close even the day before, because that's also very tight for them to be able to execute and be able to stop the foreclosure. So in our case, we were fortunate enough. The buyer performed at a very high level. Wired their funds, signed their documents, executed everything perfectly that the escrow company required and asked of them, and the seller did likewise in getting their documents executed and all that. And so we ended up closing a few days before the foreclosure date. So the escrow and title company were comfortable with closing and with enough time to be able to stop the auction that would take place on Friday. But I have heard stories where they have a purchase has closed and yet the property still went to auction on Friday. So that's what makes the title companies really nervous. And so anyhow, the purpose of this video is to just, it's kind of an interesting little piece of information. But if you have a foreclosure date, or if you're in that kind of a situation, you definitely want to make sure that you are planning ahead as much as you can. And of course, try to get a sale and have a sale close as in advance of the foreclosure date, because really the week of the foreclosure is often really tricky ground to be able to get a transaction closed. And if you're able to do so, you definitely want to do so early in the week, so the title company feels comfortable still closing and being able to stop the auction process so that it's all in full swing and ready to go for that following Friday. So anyways, if you have any other questions about the foreclosure process or just in general real estate, obviously here to help always happy to answer questions, what have you. So cell phone is the best place to reach me. It's 206-949-3793. We'll talk to you soon.